power picks that we're expecting on 7-11.
Yep.
Yes.
And a lot of respect being shown towards Wadid, even though ROCCAT is considered a fairly strong support right now. I feel like Wadid in particular is particularly strong on that champion because a lot of the wins against the top teams like G2 and Misfits that ROCCAT have been able to get were when Wadid were on this playmaking support. So I like the fact that Fnatic is saying, you know what, we're not even going to take that gamble.
Yep, it's all in the name. The ROCCAT on. It matches. No? Okay, we'll stop. Galio's off. Zach is off. The Shen towards sOAZ. Rekkles still has the viability or possibility of going for that Kennen. And of course, a Thresh for Wadid. Another playmaking support. I'm disappointed it's not Blitzcrank.
Yep.
But I'll take another Hookmaster in Thresh.
You know, I was just thinking of Hookmaster myself. Great minds do, in fact, think alike. But it will leave open Fnatic Rekkles' favorite and most successful pick, the Kennen.
And we can't forget it is still technically a flex, right? sOAZ could take it.
No, it's not, QuickChart. It is not.
Okay. So this is just end of story, first pick AD carry.
Yep.
Because this is the Fnatic style.
This is the Fnatic style.
That continues to develop. What do you think of the following two lock-ins? Kha'Zix, and then, of course, a very quick Warwick and Kalista.
So, now, this is actually a really good development for ROCCAT, because what we've identified for Pridestalker is he doesn't gank, okay? It is just a fact. He has the lowest jungle proximity of any jungler in the league, and they've been putting him on champions that he's expected to be to provide some kind of an early game impact. But with Warwick, all you have to invest your early game into doing is farming. Farm, get to that level 6 mark, get a couple of items under your belt, and then the mid-game skirmishing power that he has is fantastic. When you pair that up with a player like Wadid, who can roam around the map and look to get picks and make plays on a champion like Thresh.
Ooh, exciting possibilities. And of course, with the Thresh Kalista, we felt that ROCCAT, when they have one, is when Hjarnan and Wadid have been unlocked and unleashed. And this is a combination that can do exceptionally well. We've seen Kalista and Thresh banned and stolen away. Very rarely do you see them together. We're into ban phase 2. Fiora taken off the table by Fnatic, LeBlanc from ROCCAT, and you can see the stats on screen. This is most likely the AD carry Kennen. For Rekkles, the only player on the planet that Deficio gives permission to play. I am maybe putting words in his mouth a little bit on that one. We'll find out later. And the last two bans to Leah Graga. So what are we going next for picks-wise?
Fascinating that Fnatic could actually choose to ban the Talia. Bear in mind that Syndra is still available, so Fnatic, they can look to first pick the Syndra, and then you're guaranteed a pretty strong mid lane, because I feel like Betsy's champ pool is not something that would put him more towards something like an Orianna. They're more likely going towards something like the Vladimir instead, which we saw Betsy last week get obliterated on by Power of Evil when he played the Vlad into the LeBlanc.
Yeah, and of course, this does keep my thoughts open that it could be a flex. That Kennen could go down there.
Stop it. No,
it could be a counter pick for sOAZ.
It's not a flex.
I see you very smug about that, Orianna. What happens next?
I was actually kind of like, oh, PogChamp, because I was not expecting Betsy to bring out the Orianna. The question is, how well can he perform on it now? Because it will be difficult, but what's fascinating is the ball delivery system that he now has with the Warwick 2. Bit of a unique combo that you don't get to see very often, but I think that it could create some interesting engages moving forward into the game. Yeah,
let's see if Pridestalker can actually find those connects. And the smug Vedius returns.
Oh, it could be a flex.
I'm just saying, mathematically speaking, it is a possibility.
I'm sure it was a possibility.
No matter how low the percentage. Now into Renekton, I'm excited to see that sOAZ has definitely been playing well this split, but he's had 5 games of Shen. 1 Galio, 1 Jarvan. This is his first time on Gnar, first time on that sort of split pusher. Also some great impact in team fights. What do you think of the 2 team comps? Now you see them side by side.
Well, I think that Fnatic have a pretty powerful team fight composition with the Gnar acting as one of your primary engages alongside Rekkles' Kennen. It'll be fascinating to see how well Rekkles does without a team that's built around keeping him alive. He has to be a little bit more independent, and his positioning in the mid to late game has to be very careful. He has to be much more aware because he won't have that same sort of utility. Whereas for ROCCAT, I'm looking at a very pick skirmish-heavy comp that scales very nicely, especially around the 2-item spike, where they're actually pretty potent at being able to force these fights. Renekton, Orianna, really good team fight champions. Basically, I'm saying there should be a lot of blood in this series.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. This is, of course, Fnatic's last game of the first round of the group play. They will head into matches with Group B next week. And, of course, ROCCAT still have one more matchup this week before they close out their split, their first round, rather. And, of course, team fight possibilities here for ROCCAT. Some split pushing options on the side of Fnatic. Whenever Kennen is played by Rekkles or vice versa, you know they're going to have some split push. But this time round, no Shen for backup. This time round, no press R for safety.
And the other exciting thing is the fact that ROCCAT's bottom lane have got comfort champions. So let's see how they do against the powerhouse of Fnatic. Comfort
champions for Hjarnan and Wadid going up against Rekkles and Jesiz. The 2v2 could be instrumental in the win. It's ROCCAT versus Fnatic, week 4-3. Man, I'm off to a bad start numbers-wise. We'll catch this one up.
It's a Thursday, Trevor. You are allowed.
It's like the Monday of the broadcast week for me, you know?
Sounds like that there are some passionate ROCCAT fans in the crowd today, trying to compete with the ever-so-dominant Fnatic fans. But just looking at how the early game setup should plan out, bottom lane, heavy priority going in favor of Fnatic. Mid lane, priority going in favor of Fnatic. Top lane, priority kind of goes in favor of Fnatic. They have 3 very strong lanes, which should give them a lot of pushing power. And one of the big things that Fnatic have done so well is utilize this pressure everywhere else on the map, whether it be getting themselves deep vision, whether it be trying to set it for an early objective, or whether it be just trying to build that early lead. Fnatic are a team that demonstrate how well to utilize early lane pressure.
And of course, Broxah, the man on your map, if he's got 3 lanes that have the ability to push, he's unlocked as well. Let's see what frustrations he can cause Pridestalker. Had a great discussion in Picks and Bans videos where you were talking about Pridestalker, his preference to farm. Broxah could interrupt that. Looking at Hjarnan's skin, by the way, SKT Kalista. The new SKT skins are pretty sick.
They look dope.
Yeah,
I really want that Echo one.
Hashtag sellout, but they are awesome. Let's see how this lane matchup goes. Rekkles and Jesiz pushing for that early level 2. And Wadid is one of the more exciting players on ROCCAT because last split especially was one of the sort of the primary forms of engage. And I really liked his willingness to go in.
My biggest issue with Wadid last split was very much that I feel the team put him on stuff like Karma and Lulu because he was the best champions playing support, but I don't think it was the best for him. And what we saw this split is when you do give him a champion like Rakan or Thresh, he actually becomes like a completely different player. He's roaming around the map, he's finding fantastic picks. Him and Hjarnan feel like they're competing with some of the top bottom lanes in Europe. You're seeing a lot of impressive stuff from them, and it's all about comfort. And this discussion that we as analysts always have is that just because a champion is S tier can only really be fully unlocked if the person playing it can utilize it, right?
And of course, the other direction, even if a champion's not S tier, but the player on it is S tier, in this case, Rekkles and Kennen. Some interesting stats here, Vedius. Rekkles and Jesiz have not given up first blood in 40 straight games. They just don't, right? End of story. In addition to that, that second stat line means Rekkles and Jesiz have the lowest combined deaths of any duo in Europe. And finally, 19 games this year, Rekkles has gone with 0 deaths. Now, admittedly, the team has played around him and facilitated that, but he's also one of the guys on the front line. So it's phenomenal stat lines that these guys just simply don't know what a gray screen looks like.
But it's also worth highlighting how it's not just Rekkles, right? Like, it's the bottom lane of Fnatic. Jesiz has been developing into a support that has really facilitated this superstar AD carry and turned them into one of the best bottom lanes in Europe. And it's very exciting to see how well they have come together as this bottom lane pairing, and how well they've avoided death.
How well they've played. I'd love to know if we could track how many Stand Uniteds have saved Rekkles' life. That would be an interesting thing.
Okay, a better question to ask is how many Shenalts have been used in a game? Because I guarantee they've been nowhere else.
I prefer my much more complex setup. Hjarnan's going to throw the PS through the minion, tags Rekkles, and currently even CS in that bottom lane. taking a look across the rest of the map. I'm not seeing any shenanigans yet. Caps an early CS advantage over his lane opponent, and sOAZ not yet able to really bully Phaxi around. But sOAZ and Phaxi just trading blow for blow, teleports available as well.
And what's cool about this top lane matchup is, I had a great discussion with Deficio about this the other day, because we were thinking, like, what are the really top tier, top laners right now? And then we got into this discussion about Gnar and how he's kind of underutilized, and some of the reasons as to why he might be underutilized in the current meta. And one of the reasons that we thought about was like how easy his ultimate is actually to play around. Because it's literally a bar that tells you when he has his ultimate and when he can kill stuff. Speaking of killing stuff.
Let's see if ROCCAT can. The Flay connects, grasping roots, locks down 2. That's a great lantern. Defensive flash from Rekkles. Not giving up first blood in 40 straight games. And so far, not 41.
So good pressure being exerted from Hjarnan and Wadid. This is the power of the Thresh Kalista duo lane. They have so much all-in potential that they're actually going to force both summoner spells out from Rekkles. And this means that Pridestalker, working towards that level 6 mark, could look for opportunities in the bottom half of the map as Caps get some vision in the river. Infinite
duress onto a flashless target is significantly easier to land. And Pridestalker is getting very close to that. Even game as far as gold is concerned, and we're going to go back to that top lane discussion. The Gnar bar is also a gigantic warning bar.
Yep.
And on the LCS, the majority of teams are able to sort of play around that.
It's very much just that's a big no. Giant flashing red sign being like, we should avoid fighting right now. And when you have to really rely on flanks and good vision, I feel like Fnatic are fully capable of utilizing Gnar as an engaged tool, but it's something that you have to play around. And I just remember Misfits last split bringing out the Gnar, and we could not see Alphari ever use an ulti simply because of how well teams adapted.
Well, remember, it is Rekkles without the flash, so Caps and Broxah figure, hey, let's turn the party onto the bottom lane. Wadid and Hjarnan getting support as Pridestalker makes his way up, and Caps fearing some sort of counterplay. He uses a pretty early ghost, so the play fizzles, but I do appreciate the attempt and the read, both from Fnatic and ROCCAT respectively.
Yeah, I think that Fnatic were just a little bit slow to activate, because what they want to be doing is notice the Caps, he pushed in mid, forced Betsy to have to deal with the minion wave, which means that he could not follow as fast. But what ideally Fnatic wanted was for the play to start before Betsy was even able to move away from the mid lane. The problem is, Caps takes the ulti.
Well, Betsy loses a bit of an HP bar. Caps still holds on to his unleashed power. That felt like a pressure ulti more than anything.
It's a zoning ulti, you know, just like if you take a bit of damage, force your health pots out, like that means that I can go back to base, you know, which is definitely what Betsy's looking to do. But very much so, Fnatic was just smart of them to be aware of the fact that, you know what, we can't commit to this anymore. We don't know where Pridestalker is. Let's just disengage.
And of course, with the blood hunt rather, from Pridestalker, that sends a big signal to Caps. Don't go forward. Do not pass go. Do not attempt to poke your lane opponent down.
Also, like, it's really worth praising the team that did this rework for Warwick, because it does give you that really unpleasant feeling. Because it's when you're low health, the passive activates it, right? Because you can either use it through an active or a passive, and if you're low health, it's just passively on your head, and there's this ticking clock that's just in your ears all the time, and you're like, I want to kill him, but I can't because there might be a giant werewolf about to jump on my face. Like, super annoying.
And it's super terrifying. Pridestalker's got access to level 6. Infinite duress is up and available to him in the minimap, though. Broxah may get the jump down onto Betsy. The stun follows up. Unleashed power, not enough to pick up the kill. But flash and barrier popped, so that zoning ulti from earlier can end up zoning Betsy further away from his lane.
Yeah, well, he will end up losing a wave of farm, and that will result in a bit of experience being lost as well. So good gank there from Broxah to force both summoner spells away from Betsy. But the big thing is, an Ori is super easy to gank when they've got no summoner spells.
Kennen, being played by Rekkles, will have his flash up and available, like slightly more difficult to gank. And as it stands, you know, Fnatic not actually with sizable leads. We're getting into the 10-minute mark. Small advantage for Rekkles in that bottom lane. It looks like it'll be even out. There's a lot of minions here for Hjarnan to clean up. And this is like even across the board. Good start to the first 10 minutes for ROCCAT.
Yeah, now bear in mind, we talked at the start of the game about pressure and how Fnatic have 3 pushing lanes. Phaxi's done a great job of holding his own, really abusing the mini-Gnar state to stay even in terms of farm. And in mid, because of the roam that Caps made down bottom, that's actually allowed Betsy to equalize some of the gold and farm difference, meaning he's been able to go back to base and get some magic resistance to alleviate some of the pressure from him. And because of that all-in play from Hjarnan and Wadid, that's also alleviated pressure. So ROCCAT have identified the risks and have been able to effectively play around.
Let's see how they take the next steps, because Pridestalker has been able to successfully farm his way to his ulti, and now we need to see that infinite duress result in a kill, maybe more. In terms of the first buys, Lost Chapters picked up for those mid laners. Rekkles has once again gone for those Berserker's Greaves, something he's doing more and more in the summer split. Gives him that ability to push those waves down quicker, and with some focus down the bottom lane, Rekkles and Jesiz, they paid their respects to a potential dive, backed away until Broxah came close enough for potential support.
Yeah, the things you have to look out for is up in the top lane, Phaxi has the push. In mid right now, it's very even. But the bottom lane had a massive minion wave as well. So simply because of this push in the top lane, and it would have been super awkward for sOAZ to try and follow, both Rekkles and Jesiz had to respect the possibility of a dive, especially when they knew that both Caps and Broxah were only just now returning to the middle lane. The Caps, he's looking for a roam top.
He is indeed ghosting up. Phaxi's got Dominus and Flash available to him. Dominus is popped. The Ruthless Predator buys some time. Continues to chase, runs away. First blood, Fnatic.
It was a really good setup from Caps. Notice that he started with the stun. He flashed over to guarantee it so that he could get the follow-up ulti. And all sOAZ had to do was just avoid the kill pressure as ROCCAT, they're trying to respond with a play down bar.
Now remember, jungler, mid laner rather, in the top lane, got first blood. ROCCAT will respond with a tower first blood if they can stick around, and they can. Easy objective secured, and that will give them the temporary gold advantage.
I think this is absolutely worth it for ROCCAT. Again, time and time again, you have to remember that ROCCAT are a team that perform the best when Hjarnan and Wadid are put ahead. When they get this gold in the bottom lane, when they open up the map and they can start moving around, that's when we start to see them succeed. And the fact that Caps roam to the top side, yes, you're punishing an overextended Renekton. And if you can shut Renekton down early on into the game, that will allow you the opportunity to have the advantage off in a side lane, but it's going to cost you that first blood tower. It's going to cost you a lot in the bottom half, and I think that this is still a good start to the game for ROCCAT. Yeah,
that bottom lane, of course, Hjarnan and Wadid for ROCCAT doing very well. You can see some of the statistics in the 2 games that they have won. This split 11-2-14, Hjarnan really going off. The kill participation is what interests me. ROCCAT, they play around these two, or these two play around their team?
These two play around their team.
There we go.
Yeah.
And of course, that's really the key to victory for the squad. So for Hjarnan and Wadid to have a pretty good laning phase, come out even or ahead, get the tower first blood as well. This is playing into ROCCAT's favors as we move into this mid-game video.
Yep. And again, for ROCCAT fans, you want to be seeing the growth of ROCCAT. We're only week 3 into the split, and while they've certainly had a rough start, last split, they had exactly the same, and then they were able to come back, and they were the ones fighting Fnatic for that playoff spot. Just a few games could have very well changed the outcome of our playoffs in spring.
Yeah, of course, the 6-game winning streak, right? Capped off with taking down G2, the first regional European team to defeat G2 in over a year. That was a mind-boggling series.
Yep.
Now, they have already taken a game off G2 with subs. And of course, ROCCAT having taken a game of G2 with subs, they've got a few games under their belt already. And ROCCAT are looking a little bit more competitive this game. Admittedly, Fnatic are also playing relatively slow and steady, right? As a team, there doesn't seem to be any risky plays, and you would expect Fnatic's macro in the mid to late game to be better. They're going to have to test it because they're on even foot.
Yes, that's the big thing, right? So the players you have to keep your eyes on. Number 1, sOAZ, because he's going to get to a point where his split push cannot be answered by Phaxi. During the early game, Renekton can punish the mini Gnar form, but then as you get a couple of levels under your belt, once the item's complete, that mini Gnar just kites you all day long, and there's nothing you can really do about it. And the other player you really have to watch out for is Caps too. This guy has been performing out of his mind in the last few weeks of summer. And on a Syndra, a playmaking champion that is so good at finding picks, if you're even remotely out of position, this is the guy that will find you and kill you.
And I mean, Caps last week against Perks was a matchup they were extremely excited about, extremely interested to watch. Phaxi takes a lot of autos from that Hyper. And sOAZ keeps throwing out those boomerang autos. The Phage plus the Fist helping him out in those trades. He's got a 15 CS advantage, and this is now where sOAZ begins to shine, right? That unlocked Gnar can now start bullying Renekton. And in Mega Gnar also has the potential to teleport and set up a play.
So I now want to see ROCCAT's bottom lane start moving around the rest of the map. They've got the push on bot. Phaxi's being forced back. He wants to try and clear out this top tower or the minion wave as quickly as possible. And then they need to get Phaxi out of this lane. He needs to start just avoiding sOAZ as much as he can, just start soaking in farm to get to the 2-3 item spike, but he's just pure tank. And that's where the team fight value he can bring for ROCCAT starts to shine through.
But what about the Fnatic squad? It's 15 minutes in. They're starting to get their first big items completed, almost better than King for Rekkles. Where do Fnatic go to unlock their comp? We'll answer that question in a moment because Broxah and Jesiz, they're moving in to support sOAZ in this top lane.
Yeah, it looks like they've actually left Rekkles by himself, and they're trying to move Jesiz around the map to help facilitate some of these plays because Broxah on a Kha'Zix is not the best tool for really making things happen. So you need that extra bit of CC to follow you up. But it looks like Fnatic, their investment will be in vain as ROCCAT now finally make that move on top side.
Vedius, I want to tell you something that's technically correct.
Go ahead.
At 15 minutes in this game, Fnatic were losing. It is their first gold deficit of summer. 15 minutes. Don't care that it was small. It's even a technically correct
in their
phrase.
series versus G2.
That's correct.
Wow.
Our stats team buzzed me and they were like, Trevor, we think we've got a stat for you.
That definitely sounds like Trevor.
Technically speaking, they were behind in gold. Now, admittedly, it's only 500, and I totally am overhamming it.
A value is a value.
There we go. But I'm going to ask you to explain to me now, what if Fnatic wants? I think unlocking the map is probably a good thing for them, considering the Gnar,
mid lane, Trevor,
as well as the Kennen. What's happening in the mid lane, Vedius?
Looks like Renekton has actually tried to move in there to set up some kind of a gank, and he's going.
He is indeed slicing, dicing, culling the meek. Betsy kills Caps.
Caps, use the flash, use the ghost. It wasn't enough. He loses his life.
Yeah, but is it worth 2 towers? So far, it's a 1-for-2 tower trade. Broxah almost gets squashed like a bug. And ROCCAT will trade their inner bottom turret for the Rift Herald.
This is absolutely fine again for ROCCAT, because bear in mind, they should be able to get a lot of damage down onto this mid-tier 1. And if you get yourself the Herald, it effectively, if you use it properly, guarantees you a tower.
It has the potential.
Yes.
It has the potential. We've not really seen a lot of fantastic Herald plays. Okay. What's wrong? What's wrong? What don't you like?
Because they're guaranteed this tower. It's theirs. Now they don't have... Okay, the minion wave is just coming up through mid, so this could be fine. But you have so many members alive from Fnatic. I think this is risky, and it's not going to get you a huge amount of value, just a bit of damage down. Whereas I would rather use it to guarantee a tier 2.
All right, let's see if it is a guarantee or not. The shockwave whiffs, the sombrero on the floor. Stun connects onto Pridestalker, and he rides the lantern to safety. Unleashed power follows across the map. And Pridestalker is able to escape with his life. So Rift Herald did not help on the outer and took 60% of the inner. It all started with this play.
So Caps, he's trying to reach the minion wave first because he knows what's happening on the top side. So if they can alleviate the pressure from 2 members mid, he's in a good spot. The mistake he makes is still trying to clear the wave without any flash because he thinks he's safe with Broxah there, but that's a giant crocodile, and crocodile's bite hurts a lot.
It does indeed. Unfortunately, against a boomerang, sOAZ doesn't care. And actually, that was stolen by Broxah.
It was secured by Broxah,
touche.
I think you will find.
Touche.
Broxah really doing a lot of the work there, I feel, as now he's going to claim the spoils of war as the Cloud Drake is next on the list.
All right, Cloud Drake, this will be the first of the game. Close to 19 minutes. Talking about objectives, Fnatic were able to get first blood. They were able to get first dragon. This split, their early game objectives for weeks 1 and 2 have been very good. They've had gold leads at 20 minutes. They have secured a lot of first bloods and dragons. You can see the stats on your screens. They did it again today, Caps with that roam up top. It's been a good start to summer for a team that has continued their upward trend from the end of spring.
I completely agree. I think that they kept the roster together. They went off to Korea for a boot camp, and even though Rekkles did not go with them, it felt like that he had always been a part of the team because he came back revitalized. The whole team seems to be smiling, joking around. They just seem to be so much more energetic, and their playstyle is like an example of that.
Yeah, and of course that stat, average gold difference at 20 is around 3.7 thousand gold in the lead. This is pretty even. Trading blow for blow, Fnatic maybe getting the advantage on the map, it feels like, but it's not a huge difference. It's 3 towers already secured by ROCCAT.
Just humor me, Trevor.
I'll try.
Remind me how many Shen games sOAZ had.
I'm racking my brain. It was a lot. I could count at 5.
5?
Yes.
And I believe Fnatic have played like 7 games.
That's right, that's right.
So they've actually had a lot of Shen, is what we're saying.
Okay, what are humoring you
So
with?
the point that we're trying to make is, when Fnatic don't get Shen, I feel like that they can't snowball these leads down in the bottom lane.
Well,
Just
Shen,
a theory, just a theory.
Just a theory. G2, they gave Fnatic Shen and Kennen, opted into it twice last week, and that came back to bite them in the butt.
As a thought experiment, imagine that
I'm not good at those.
Imagine the all-in from Hjarnan and Wadid down the bottom lane, except there was a Shen on Fnatic's side instead.
But you can't do that. Those are rose-tinted glasses, okay? You cannot simply imagine the past with different scenarios.
Okay.
We live in the present, and in the present, Fnatic are losing the gold game at 20 minutes. I am technically correct once again.
No, you are correct. Numbers
And
do not lie.
I feel like 5 minutes ago I asked the question, but we have not yet answered it.
Yes.
Fnatic, they've already got sOAZ split pushing bottom lane. They've got Rekkles pushing top lane. Is that the key to victory here for Fnatic? sOAZ is going to get stunned up as he attempts to run away. Goes Mega Gnar, a lot of ultimates. The 3-man stun into the crunch. sOAZ is putting the damage down. He wallops himself forward, takes Hjarnan down, then turns his attention to Phaxi. Another stun. It's a 1-for-1.
1 versus 3, and sOAZ gets a kill. Fnatic are going to be able to get the top tower as well, and we talked about it. It is a giant red alarm bar that says, "Do not fight me," and 3 members of ROCCAT group up against a wall to enable sOAZ the prime opportunity to get the turnaround play. So you can just see the rage bar is building, building, building. They want to get the collapse on. At this point, I think they're just happy with the flash, but the lantern drags he gets dragged into the wall to freely allow sOAZ to just get that stun. I feel like they just, oh yeah, damn, he's really annoying when he's tanky. See you?
Yep. Oh my god, indeed, Hjarnan. Also, if you look at the summoner spells, Phaxi flash, Hjarnan heal, Wadid flash and ignite. All of that plus ultimates, and sOAZ still slapped him in the face.
Yeah, I mean, mad props to sOAZ, because he played that fantastically, even being able to kill the AD carry too, because that keeps his chances alive as Broxah is a bit of danger.
He is indeed, as a leap over the wall, gets to safety. I'm looking down the inventory, Vedius, and there's a tear brought to my eye.
Why?
Control wards are plenty.
Oh, there are.
Everybody's got them. I'm looking at the mini-map. Fnatic have got some good deep vision in the bottom quadrant of the jungle, but that doesn't matter because this is an early Baron.
Let's slow down here. TP's coming in. Mega Gnar is available.
Remember, this isn't a 50-50. This is a 60-40 when you have Rend on your side. They get the teleport out of sOAZ. A flash forward for the Force, the weak. Caps is not going to be able to find the stun just yet, waiting for the cooldown.
Ooh.
Unleashes on Phaxi, and he's able to escape.
Okay, so the goal here... Oh, hang on, Betsy.
We're holding on. Betsy forced a flash. The Stranglethorns comes down. Shockwave catches too. Jesiz is tanking the turret as Broxah, and sOAZ run him down! sOAZ takes out Betsy, teleports in behind. Phaxi, that's too many! He's gonna take the taxi back to base. Wadid's on the front line. The hop, the skip, the crunch, the wallop! It's a double kill for Rekkles, and Fnatic are on the tower.
Fnatic gets so much from that play. ROCCAT just needed to back off. This could very well be a Baron along with the mid-tier 1 for Fnatic.
I did this once at MSI. I'm going to do it again. Phaxi, that TP sucked. Why would you finish it?
I don't know, Trev. I don't know. I feel like that you should have just cancelled the TP, right? So the first mistake here is Betsy moving back up when the top half of ROCCAT have already been zoned away. He has no idea that he's sitting on a ward, and this is just a massive mistake from Betsy. He ends up going down, and you just have to accept the loss here, okay? You lose your wave clear, you're probably going to lose the mid tower. The TP in is they think, oh, Jesiz is low, Caps is here without an ulti, but it's just so much disrespect. Pridestalker didn't have his ulti. He had his ulti but didn't use it. Just such a bad fight for ROCCAT, and things were looking so promising for them. They had so much, they had the early game that they needed, and they just get too overzealous, and in fact, he's going to die again.
Gonna get run down. sOAZ is just going to hop over the wall, actually bounces twice. And that's it, 3-1 and 4. A fed Gnar, Frozen Mallet, Black Cleaver, and starting to build up those resistances as well. That's going to be a challenge.
I'm starting to think like that Phaxi's inting at this point, because this, like, I don't like to say it, but this is really not what I would expect from a top lane. Like, this is a 2-item Gnar that is so strong right now. You cannot be making, you don't have a tower. Why are you trying to trade against him? I like massive disrespect towards sOAZ. Yeah, I'm very disappointed right now.
Well, disappointment for ROCCAT. We could see the same look on Grabs' face. sOAZ with Baron buff is going to get run down by 3 members here. The boomerang goes out to apply a slow. Fate's Call comes out. That's a good death sentence from Wadid. sOAZ, he did well the last time, but they brought back up in a 4v1. sOAZ can't do it again. It's at the cost of an inner turret in the top lane. And the rest of ROCCAT scrambling to defend yet another tower.
But this is absolutely fine for Fnatic, because all sOAZ ever tries to do is draw pressure towards him so the rest of his team can take down the map. And this is something that we have to praise sOAZ for, because he's kind of been not the shining star of the team, even though he's been pretty consistent in terms of what he's been offering for the team. His side lane pressure and his ability to just save his teammates in crucial moments have been a large part of Fnatic's success.
And while ROCCAT may not be the strongest of competition for Fnatic in the group, it is promising to see sOAZ show up on another champion that's not Shen, continue to play the map well. I mean, you could argue back away a little earlier, but again, you know, it secured, what was it, 2 additional towers here?
And a couple more summoners as well, like the Flash and the Ignite once again as a... Ooh.
That Shockwave missed again. Betsy not hitting them yet.
Nope. To be fair to Betsy, he's definitely improved upon his last performance against Misfits. Slight positioning error around that Baron fight, but aside from that, like, his laning has actually been pretty good. But still, like, in terms of control, it's heavily in the favor of Fnatic. And again, we're not really seeing much from Pridestalker.
Yeah, where has he been this game? Have you seen an infinite Jesiz?
Well, away. We've seen him use his ulti,
okay, I should specify
running away
that.
from the Baron pit. But you're right, like, I thought that maybe on a scaling jungler, he'd have more of an impact, especially when so many of the summoner spells were actually burnt from the side of Fnatic. Like, remember, Caps had no flash, bottom lane had no summoners. A lot of targets for you to potentially go for, but instead...
And it feels a little bit harsh being like, hey, Pridestalker, where were you and whatnot? But of course, for ROCCAT, they made one change between spring and summer.
Yep.
Maxlore obviously going to Misfits, Pridestalker coming up from Challenge, and we've talked a lot about the impact that Maxlore had on the team and the leadership he brought to ROCCAT. Pridestalker's not bringing that yet, nor is he bringing a huge impact. And again, we think it can grow. We're just not seeing it on stage in these games.
And that's the thing, right? Like, it may sound like we're just harping on about Pridestalker, but you kind of have to compare this ROCCAT to how they were at the end of spring of last split. And the sunrise for ROCCAT was immaculate to see. A lot of people were very excited about that kind of growth. And then coming into this split, you just kind of wanted to see that same kind of growth. And it's week 3 right now, and Pridestalker still seems to be showing the same issues that just makes fans a little bit worried.
And of course, for those ROCCAT fans, it was a lot of the mindset stuff. We heard the ROCCAT players talking about the sports psychologist, about how once they started getting some assistance off the Rift, off stage, it helped them on stage. And that's what allowed them to go 6-0, what allowed ROCCAT to put a little bit of fear into Fnatic fans. Because there was a world, there was a very real world where ROCCAT could have gone to playoffs.
Just to remind people, if Misfits had won that series against Fnatic, ROCCAT would have made playoffs.
There you go.
Fnatic had to beat Misfits.
That's how close it was. And of course,
super close.
On the other side, right, since then, Fnatic have just grown from strength to strength. Pridestalker, welcome to the game. As he decides to back away. Instead, the target is going to be Rekkles. Fate's Call comes out. Wadid throws the lantern. Flash already blown. Rekkles, they can look for him next time.
So this is actually pretty good, because this time Phaxi got a really good trade onto sOAZ, which forced him back. And so ROCCAT tried to make a play onto Rekkles, getting his flash. But Fnatic, again, recognizing this window, immediately moved to the bottom side and put some pressure down onto this inhibitor.
Look at the mini-map. Hjarnan and Betsy coming in from behind. The flanking Orianna could be game-changing. With 30 minutes in, Fnatic have got a 7,000 gold lead. And ROCCAT need, well, they need a magical play. They need a multi-man shockwave, a multi-man knock-up from Fate's Call, insta-gib a carry a few times, and then to claw it back. Because as it stands, Fnatic are just going to run them across the map. Play the 1-3-1. They've had a lot of practice with it, and they're very good at it.
Yep, they certainly have. Baron's going to be spawning in about a minute. That's probably going to be Fnatic's next objective. They won't try anything too overzealous, as you can see they've already got a bit of deep vision around the top side of ROCCAT. But just backtracking a bit, where does gib come from? Insta-gib?
It is an old Quake term from the from the 90s actually.
Really?
Yes, it used to be a graphical option that when bodies exploded, they got turned into giblets.
Oh.
Yes. So if you shoot them with like a one-shot weapon, they would get gibbed.
See, now only QuickShot would know this because he's 170 years old.
I knew it. You know, the worst part is I knew you were going to call me old the moment you asked that question. But somebody has to teach the youth today because, Vedius, you know nothing.
It's very true.
Jon Snow knows more than you do, my boy. Thank you, audience. Thank you. I got a golf claps for that one. I got golf claps for that one.
All right, moving back to the game.
See how I turned that one around on you? 1-2. Ha! Unleash power tags Betsy. It's not enough to kill him, but it's enough to send ROCCAT running with their tails between their legs. And sOAZ continues to apply pressure on the bottom lane. Right, Baron is up. Fnatic are setting their sights on it. What do you think of the Baron setup? We've talked a lot about that with multiple teams. Start to evaluate.
I love these little triangle of wards that ROCCAT have set up, like that have all been instantly denied by the control ward. It's an element of communication issue where everyone's just like, I will ward the Baron, and everyone does it at once, like, whoops. But regardless, ROCCAT are aware of what is happening in that vicinity, so they can at least try and contest. The big issue that they're having right now is sOAZ is just continuing to push in the bottom side of the map, as Broxah is alone in the jungle.
All right, Broxah's about to find Phaxi or vice versa. Meek secures that red buff. Fnatic not confident enough to start on the Baron. I suppose raising the likelihood of being hit by those shockwaves and the knockups is problematic. We've not talked about items in a while. Guardian Angel picked up to go with that Gargoyle Stone Plate for sOAZ. He is terrifying.
Yep.
Caps has had that Death Cap for a little while. Banshee's Veil, Morellonomicon, the typical Rekkles build. Frozen Mallet thrown in there as well.
Double Frozen Mallet, so as emulating him, but it also makes a huge amount of sense into the Renekton matchup too in terms of kiting. Only 3 items done on Phaxi as Betsy
is running away. That's correct. Broxah's flashed forward for this one. Tastes their fear. Easily picks up Betsy. This should open up the Baron.
Yep. Very easily
safe and secure.
That was just a very easy kill for Fnatic. They just ran it down mid. They saw Betsy overextended. They got themselves the kill. You
might say that was an oopsie by Betsy.
Oh. I mean, some might say that, but I don't think many would.
Okay, okay. I did.
I know.
Thank you.
Now look at Phaxi, sOAZ rather, down the bottom lane. Again, continuing to draw pressure. Fnatic, they're just like, we're going to wait for you guys to go send more than one member down, and once we know you are almost guaranteed to lose a Baron fight, that's when we'll start. By
the way, this is actually very good play from Fnatic, in my opinion. Not going for the risky all-in. sOAZ is about to mega Gnar out. The crunch comes down. The wall of the Gnar! His GA hasn't even been popped. sOAZ is running for his life as Phaxi's Dominus continues to time out. Nothing gets popped. Fnatic starting the Baron. As, of course, Betsy has just respawned. Not going to commit to it, and I'll finish that thought. Safe play from Fnatic, not putting themselves in a 50-50 scenario, not putting themselves in a situation where they could lose a potential fight.
The issue that Fnatic have with the Baron right now is it's very reminiscent of what we saw against Misfits in their first week of play, which was that the vision around the Baron itself is solid. But they need vision in ROCCAT's half of the jungle, because the way in which you reliably take that Baron is when you make the enemy so afraid to come near the pit that you can either rush it down or you can find yourself a pick, which can then result in you having the numbers advantage to turn that into a Baron. Speaking of picks, Jesiz, he needs to be very careful right now.
He's got the flash available, sidesteps, just walks out of range of that shockwave. Caps has now come to support the rest of the Fnatic endeavor. And Baron gets taken down. Just clean, simple plays.
So that's the alternative. If you don't need the deep vision, if you make ROCCAT feel like that they're comfortable with what they can see on the Baron pit, you can just go for a sneaky blast cone play, which will result in that same objective. And now the 1-3-1 of Fnatic will effectively be unstoppable, and ROCCAT's best hope is to try and force a play before Fnatic can get in position.
Well, that's what they're trying to do. Hjarnan and Wadid moving all the way forward. Rekkles, by the way, still unkilled this game. He has 19 deathless games this year, looking to make that 20. Exceptionally good play, continues to play on the side lane, which, by the way, ROCCAT have attempted once to try slow him down, and it did not pay dividends.
Nope, they got his flash, but then couldn't really translate that into anything else. And the other thing you have to look at is just the level difference between the two teams right now. Everyone on Fnatic hitting that maximum level spike means that you do have the ultimate base values all capped out, fully enhanced further by the 4, 5 items in some instances that have been completed for the side of Fnatic. And at this point, you are just kind of looking for a miracle if you're ROCCAT, because if Fnatic play this smart and slow, there's no way in which they can really lose. They just have to kind of do something surprisingly dumb.
And technically, at 35 minutes, Fnatic are insurmountably in the lead.
No, technically, they're in the lead. That's very true, yes.
It's just my little mini game. It keeps me happy. Unfortunately, probably doesn't keep everyone else happy. So as of that GA, they get hopped on here as he actually jumps on the Siege minion out. Continues to apply damage onto that inhibitor on the bottom lane. Rekkles, by the way, does not usher the minions into the top lane turret. Instead, move to join the rest of the Fnatic squad middle. This looks like a committed fight. That's a Gnar into the wall, stun onto Phaxi lands. The crunch comes down from sOAZ as he attempts to escape. Stranglethorns is available for Jesiz, and any potential fight in Fnatic, they've got the inside track on 2 lanes.
Now bear in mind, ROCCAT, they still have a lot of ultimates left available, whereas sOAZ's ulti is down. He used that to try and win out a trade on Phaxi, which he's now winning anyway.
Well, it doesn't look like he even needs it. Support from Broxah just lingers on the side. Hjarnan's now coming to join the fight. Continues to land a couple of spears into sOAZ, the pierce as well. Got himself the Mercurial Scimitar, Blade of the Rune King, and Hurricane. So life steal for days for Hjarnan, as long as he doesn't get caught by someone with a lot of burst damage, that is.
I feel like Fnatic have forgotten that they have a 10,000 gold lead. There's an exposed inhibitor down the bottom. I feel like that if they did just fight, they're almost guaranteed to win. I appreciate that they are showing a lot of respect to their opponents, but they're also giving ROCCAT a lot of time.
Yep.
And the Baron, I think, is about to run out soon. So you just... I think there's an element of showing respect, and there's too much respect, because how afraid do you really need to be when you have 10 extra thousand gold in your pocket?
Well, we're gonna find out. That was a really weird death sentence. Somehow connects on sOAZ, but it costs Wadid his life. Unleashed power goes down, sending Betsy running for his life. He's flashed and barriered away. That's a good stun onto Phaxi. He's taken down by Broxah. sOAZ underneath the tower. Got that GA available to him. Throws down the wall up in the crunch. Hjarnan's lifesteal saves his life. So does Summoner heal. sOAZ respawns under the Nexus turret and gets taken down. The inhibitor in the middle is dropped. The tower in the top lane and the inhibitor to follow. Fnatic are looking for the all kill when it comes to objectives.
So this time respect goes out the window as sOAZ decides to dive the Nexus towers. But Fnatic have finally properly broken into the base. They were able to take down all 3 inhibitors, and it all started with this hook that landed down onto sOAZ. You can see he gets stunned up, but then the immediate turnaround from Fnatic is that we can just stun your engage and then force your main damage dealer who has no mana immediately out of the fight, resulting in an easy chase. And this is greedy from Fnatic. They should have just stopped here, gone for the inhibitors. Maybe they could have ended the game, especially with a 59-second death timer. But so I was just thinking, look, if I kill the AD carry, then we're almost guaranteed to win. So the intention was good, the execution, not so much.
Overeager is definitely a word for it. sOAZ has finished off his Thornmail, and now ROCCAT are trying their opponent bush. But no one's going to come for it.
No.
Fnatic instead going to take the last remaining dragon, Ocean, before Elder. Hopefully we don't get to Elder, because then Fnatic really not done something right. They lead in every single metric, and they have double super minions in every single lane.
Wait, Phaxi has more farm.
Oh.
So technically.
He has more farm?
Yes.
Is that a good thing at this stage of the game?
No, but you always got to look at the bright side, you know?
Yes, you do indeed. Always look at the bright side of death, as it were. 5 of them is what Phaxi has. He's got a whole lot to his name. And Pridestalker, 404 not found this game. Really have not seen that Warwick pay off. It was fairly high up in the draft as well. Second round pick. Yeah, first rotation. Did not seem to really dissuade Fnatic at all. 5,000 gold nearly on that Baron power play. And Fnatic, now they're just going to watch these supers move in. Yeah. Tower dive or just play for the tower game? What do you think?
I think you just utilize the super minions. There's not enough wave clear on ROCCAT right now. They're guaranteed to fall. This is just a matter of time for Fnatic now.
There we go. Matter of time. Nexus turret number 1 is down. Jesiz manages to catch a root in the back end. Stranglethorns by some time. Knocks up Phaxi in the air. Rekkles gets another. A flash away from the shockwave. Double kill for Rekkles. He takes down the third Nexus turret. Or the second in that case. Turns his attention to the Nexus. And Fnatic finally win game 1 against ROCCAT.
Things are looking very promising for ROCCAT for the first 20 minutes of this game.
Yep.
They were even in kills, they were a little bit ahead in gold. Like, their comp was doing what it was supposed to do, and you thought that come team fights, maybe, just maybe. And then they went for that Baron. They forced the TP out of sOAZ, and you think, I like this play. This is actually pretty good. I like this, because then you can maybe come back for it later. You alleviate the split push threat. This is all good from ROCCAT. And then the TP happened from Phaxi.
Yeah, in the middle of 5, and yes, again, you can understand the thinking, right? ROCCAT were nearby, they're like, we can fight, we'll be there, and then we're wondering why it wasn't cancelled. Maybe the call was don't cancel it.
Perhaps.
Maybe the team were communicating that. In the heat of the moment, I put all the blame on Phaxi, but it is a team-based game. He ended 1-6-1 on that Renekton. It was a last pick for ROCCAT, and it was countered by sOAZ's Gnar.
Yep.
What do you think of sOAZ on the Gnar?
I was very impressed. I feel like that he died for the team. ROCCAT got 5 kills, sOAZ had 4 of them. But every time he died, the rest of Fnatic were always getting something off of it. And that's what you should be doing as a split pusher. I never thought to myself that sOAZ was dying pointlessly. Yeah. Like, he wasn't getting caught out and then the Baron was being wasted on Fnatic. It was always, if he died, Fnatic always got something. And that is a positive for sOAZ.
Yes, and a positive for the team, right? Because they were positioned in such a way that the moment he went down, they were instantly on an objective. That's something we have not seen from many teams. When a play is made and there's a cross map, if it is available, it is taken. Yep. Rift Herald, give me a rating out of 10. What did you think of the ROCCAT Herald?
I mean, it was okay.
I want a rating out of 10.
And out of 10?
Come on.
I'd give it a 5.
5 out of 10?
A 5. If they'd better used it with like a cannon minion, and if they'd had the siege set up properly, they could have guaranteed a tier 2 in the mid.
I get so sad when I see Rift Heralds wasted, because I feel like there's so much potential with that crazy evil crab.
There is.
And we just...
Yep, it was a little unfortunate. Yeah. That we could ramble on it for ages.
We can.
But I don't want to, because it's going to be boring. Turns out I have to. So let's start from the beginning.
I've got a quick update for you. I believe Rekkles has played 52 games on the EU LCS stage. I'll get a confirmation from that in a second, 52 or 53. Out of those many games, 20 of them, he has gone deathless.
20?
20 of them.
It's pretty good.
And he's on Dracos' fantasy team playing against me this week, so that's not a good thing for me. Fnatic got first blood in the series. Let's check in with the analysts for a full breakdown on how they did it.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Indeed, Rekkles the Deathless, very, very impressive. From the side of Fnatic, it was actually quite a close or an even early game, which is not something that I'd at least expected going up against a team like ROCCAT. So why do you guys think it was slower than usual for Fnatic?
Different things. There's no Shen to kind of force plays early on. Gnar, fantastic pick here, by the way. Needed a bit more time. We can get into the top lane matchup a little bit more.
All right, now, let's talk about the top lane matchup.
Right now, KyberShot, tell us about it.
Obviously, there were a lot of top lane bans coming out, and it ended up being a Renekton versus Gnar matchup. And I think the Renekton, okay, we have seen it a little more lately in different leagues, but Gnar is not something that we've seen anyone go to in summer yet. So what are your opinions on the matchup and on both picks?
Yeah, I think the matchup is pretty good in favor of Gnar because obviously it's gonna scale like that good into late when you get like 1 or 2 items. Renekton can't even walk up to lane. Early on you have some things to do with Renekton, but then again you have to look to dive or something. I think the draft was very well done from Fnatic side. They knew what they wanted. Like they went into their bot lane matchup, the Kennen Zyra, they know it very well. They had the best jungler I think right now when Elise and Zaka out. Then Syndra is pretty safe pick and that counter top is just need to scale, so they played steady there.
One little thing to add.
Yeah, cut me, so.
Sorry, I'm actually very sad. They could have easily, KaBuShot was saying this obviously beforehand, like they could have so easily just put Kennen top though.
Yeah.
If they wanted a really good matchup.
Do you know who you're watching though?
I know, that's what I tried to tell him. I'm like, listen, when Rekkles can get Kennen, he will get Kennen. And it doesn't matter if you can get a good matchup top. So Gnar obviously came in as the discount Kennen. But that was one of the reasons it was a bit of a slower game, because you obviously need a few items before sOAZ really takes over the lane. Mid lane matchup was just slightly in favor of Caps, but also still fairly even. So there wasn't really anywhere where Fnatic were looking to play super fast. They were actually fine waiting for sOAZ to win the side lane.
Yeah, and also in terms of correlation, in the 15 straight games before this, Broxah was always involved in one kill at least, participated in or made before 15 minutes, and now he wasn't, and he was 0-0-0. So it does seem like he's becoming more and more of an instrumental factor to Fnatic's success. Yeah,
100%. I think he's like Joko on Vitality, where the two junglers who focus on the early game a lot, which is something, it's both good and bad. Like, it's really good when you manage to get your soul laners ahead and then the soul laners can carry. It's kind of been a bit of an issue for Vitality, is whenever you get the soul laners ahead.
In top lane.
Especially that top lane. But Nuketalk showed today, you know, if you give him an advantage, it's really good. And Fnatic, we've seen the same from like a Caps. We've seen it now also from sOAZ on Gnar.
Yeah, so it was definitely even. sOAZ on Gnar had a couple of good moves. And then there was a team fight you guys wanted to take another look at. So let's get that up on the screen. KaBuShot, run me through what happens here.
What happens there? Yeah, I guess it just TP'd that the pressure, I think the whole time, like, Gnar was taking side pressure from maybe level 10 or something, and then they just could control Nash pretty easily. And anytime ROCCAT tried to walk up onto Nash, it's over, and then Renekton forgets to press his button again, I think, and he just dies. That's it.
Yeah, that TP in from Phaxi was not very good. Obviously, after Betsy already went down, and kind of the problems for ROCCAT is, you know, so many things they need to work on. Like, it's not just early game, it's not just mid game, it's not just late game. Like, there's kind of things in all aspects. A call like this where it seemed like either no one called cancel, or maybe they did call cancel and he just didn't cancel in time. Like, you just end up giving more kills. It actually resulted in a Baron as well, and then Fnatic used that to get the massive advantage.
Talk to me about Phaxi, because he was someone that we were looking at. Phaxi Taxi, all the memes aside, but he played an instrumental role in ROCCAT's winning streak at the end of the spring split. KaBuShot, do you think maybe that was just kind of the byproduct of the other teams or whatnot? How good is he, and who is the best, or what's the best chance for ROCCAT to win?
Yeah, I think they were playing better with, actually, with Gnar, they played pretty good, I think, towards the end of summer, and they knew how to scale properly with the pick. Right now, it was pretty much the opposite. They had to force way more if they wanted to do something with Renekton. Like, going even in this matchup is going to end up really bad, because you're going to always lose side pressure at some point. And maybe with Warwick, it wasn't possible. Maybe he wasn't getting the trades he wanted, and it ends up in both scaling, and it gets into Gnar favor.
Yeah, it looks pretty dire for ROCCAT, it seems like.
I mean, the early game was okay, if they can build upon that, but that's kind of the hard thing, because then you can't make the mistakes in team fights right after. So there's a lot of stuff for ROCCAT to work on. Probably not this series.
Probably not this series, because Fnatic is looking absolutely on form. While Fnatic and ROCCAT continue their fight when we return for Game 2 in just a moment.
Champions for Hjarnan and Wadid going up against Rekkles and Jesiz. The 2v2 could be instrumental in the win. It's ROCCAT versus Fnatic. Three-man stun into the crunch. sOAZ is putting the damage down. He wallops himself forward, takes Hjarnan down. Phaxi, that's too many. He's going to take the taxi back to base. Wadid's on the front line. The hop, the skip, the crunch, the wallop. It's a double kill for Rekkles, and Fnatic are on the tower.
How did you kill Orianna? I'm insane! Holy moly, nice. Good close.
Knocks up Phaxi in the air. Rekkles gets another flash away from the shockwave. Double kill for Rekkles. He takes down the third Nexus turret, or the second in that case. Turns his attention to the Nexus, and Fnatic finally win Game 1 against ROCCAT.